So this stream kind of continues off of a couple of themes we've discussed on here. You could say it is sort of about people that are anti everything. You could also say that it's in line with the people hate to see men succeed. Stream I did as well. Um, I'm just, it's really interesting. I've always accepted that when people like something or for the most part support something, you're always going to have some person who's against it. So, for example, you'll have a movie that a lot of people like, and then some other person will say, "Oh, this isn't good," or "I don't like it," stuff like that. I've seen that for as long as I can remember. But that alone is not what I'm talking about. When you have people who are opposed to something that they know very little about, just an idea, right? That's where the issue comes in for me. So I remember, just to give you an example, I was watching this one stream by this really overrated channel, and they were doing a No Way Home review, and it must have been about maybe a week or 2 weeks after that film came out. They did another stream where they were talking about TASM 3 and Spider-Man 4, which are these like hypothetical sequels to the other two previous movie series for the character. And I was just kind of like watching the stream, and one of the hosts like, "I don't want them to make either of those because it's Holland's turn as Peter, and you know they couldn't even make Spider-Man 4 anyway because one of the actors died, even though he barely was in the three movies or whatever." Referring to Bill Nunn, who played Robbie, and he's like, "Oh, and Harry also died in Spider-Man 3, so that's another person you can't use," even though they were, it's like when they planned on making this movie, they weren't going to use him anyway. But I was just thinking to myself, oh, it's so interesting that you can have all these fans that are supporting like making this. I've also stated I'm not even a TASM fan. I like the first one, the second one's terrible, but it would seem really insane to me to be opposed to the creation of a movie which I know almost nothing about. When someone says TASM 3, all you know that is in this film, because again, we haven't seen a script, a trailer, any information about who's coming back besides Garfield. All you know in this hypothetical proposed film is that they're going to bring back Garfield to play Peter again, and it'll be set for the second one, which is very very little information to go off of in terms of you know, being opposed to something. You don't even know what it's about. You just know one person that's going to be in it, and that's going to be set after another movie. And yet somehow you're ardently opposed to this idea. And that's one of the things I just started noticing. It feels like when I mention people being opposed to and against stuff, I'm not just talking about they don't like a movie, they don't like a show. I'm talking about they don't like a concept. They don't even you can literally just describe a film that you want to see made, right? In one or two sentences, and you'll find some section of people, even if it's not that many people that you talk to or post this to, that are against it. I gave the example of the Thanos prequel, right? I said, hey, look, I feel like, this was the overarching main villain of the MCU, and he really only gets one film to actually, get character development. And I thought of any antagonist, he'd be the most deserving of it, right? Um, And the response by this I saw was, "Oh, he's deceased, so they shouldn't make a movie about him, even though they made a movie about Black Widow after she died. Oh, this wouldn't sell and have widespread appeal, but then they'll make a film about a random character nobody cared about seeing a movie made about like Morbius." It's like you guys just I don't understand. Remember, we're not talking about a film that's actually been made and they saw it, they didn't like it, or they saw a trailer and it looked weird to them, or somebody showed them a script that, or just like some plot summary. All they know about this proposed movie that I'd like to see is it would serve as a prequel about the main antagonist of this 22 something film series. of this 20 something movie film series. That's all they know. They don't have any idea what else is in it, what period of his life it covers. Just again, all you have to do is just give a very bare bones description of what you would like to see. And it seems as if you're always going to find someone who, again, without knowing what the plot of this is, or who knows very little about what this movie would entail, that are opposed to it. You have people who say they want to see Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man again. Um, and then you have individuals who say, "Oh, they don't need to bring him back, and Endgame was the perfect." And it's like, look, no one, at least not me anyway. I'm not talking about, resurrecting, whatever. I'm referring to an Iron Man 4 that's a prequel to Endgame, that's set in that 5-year gap, because I think there's a lot of stuff and questions that weren't really answered in Endgame. So again, if I say, "Hey, I want Iron Man 4," because people who know very little about what I specifically would like to see in this hypothetical movie, they will oppose it on the basis of an argument that isn't even mine, because I'm not someone who wants them to resurrect him. Because that's something that people have said they wanted. But I am someone who thinks if they do a prequel movie that's set before Endgame, I don't really have an issue with that. I don't know. I just feel like Endgame just had a lot of just character development that happened off screen, and it's I've always, since seeing the movie, I've really thought about how I'm getting more and more tired of these time skips and just ways of getting around actually showing stuff. Like, you have, in that 5-year period, he gets married, he has a kid, he moves out of the city into a log cabin, or out of into the wilderness. Um, she gets the armor. He teaches her how to use it. There's a lot of stuff that they could do for a fourth. Hell, if we're being honest, if you're talking about 5 years, they could fit 3 movies in there. A whole second trilogy. Of course, I don't expect them to do that. But I'm just giving an example of how this stuff really, there are various things that they could explore in one film or more. And it really sucks that people who are opposed to this don't even know what I want. They just hear a proposal and are like, "This cannot work. They shouldn't do this." Another good example was when we were there was another stream I was doing, and I mentioned, "Oh, it'd be really cool if they did a Darth Nihilus movie," because I thought Nihilus was really cool. He's this Sith Lord that eats planets, right? And this person's like, "I don't think it would work. I don't believe he could work for a whole movie." I'm like, "Well, how the hell did he work for a whole game?" For KOTOR 2, it's like you're, and again, we go back to this thing of how, if you say you want a movie about this character, you're not saying they have to be the protagonist. You're not saying that you can't use somebody else. All you're saying is you like a movie where this character plays like some kind of leading role, or they're in it, and just it's that same thing of almost nothing about what this person wants because they haven't described the plot. But you don't care to really know what they want. You just want to be opposed to something. Remember, it's opposition for the sake of opposition. Because, like I said, I'm tolerant of a lot of opinions on, like, I don't like this movie, I don't like this show, whatever. But when you get to a point where people are so damn um, negative and driven by this position of, I have to be opposed to things which I know almost nothing about, I just think something's wrong with that. I give an example. If my brother, let's say, makes a show, he makes like a little cartoon like I've done. He draws it, writes it, and he puts it on YouTube. And I go, I'm not really a fan of this. Of course, I would probably be a fan of it anyway because he made it. But confirmation bias aside, if he makes that and I watch it and I say I don't like it, that's very different from him explaining what he wants to do, right? Just like laying out like a sentence like, "Oh, this show is about this old man," and I go, "I don't think this will have widespread appeal. This can't work. This won't be good." It's like you don't even know anything else other than this one little tiny droplet of information. Just like I was on Twitter about it must have been 2 or 3 weeks after No Way Home came out. And there was a report that Sony wanted to make an Electro spinoff. So with Jamie Foxx, and I saw people in the comment section, "I don't want this, this," and you know It's the same thing where I don't personally find that version of Electro interesting. Like I really, especially in TASM 2. But if they did want to do a spin-off, I mean, I'm not opposed to because I don't know what they want to do with this story. I don't know what's in it. I just know it's about a character I'm not really fond of. But I would say that's not a basis for a movie to automatically be bad. Hell, I was never fond of Miles, and Into the Spider-Verse is really good. So, I just think that when you're opposed to something and you know almost nothing about what it actually is, that's it's problematic. At least for me anyway. Well, I said it's just this blind, consistent opposition. Like you can just like there used to be a time where again maybe it's because I didn't always use the internet. But I don't remember, like, I remember when people would talk about, "Oh, they're gonna make a Flash movie, they're gonna make, Wonder Woman," like, people would get excited, they would like, "Oh, I wonder how this is gonna go. I wonder who they're gonna cast, what the story will be about." There was some basic level of optimism associated with, like, a thing that's unknown but is confirmed to be happening. Now it seems like whenever something's announced, no matter what it is, people are just against it. It's really sad that we're just this is just the era of being anti everything. It's also the era of like misinterpreting or misrepresenting what someone is saying. Because there's some stuff where I guess I'm kind of like that. Like if they said, "Oh, make another Back to the Future movie," um, I probably would not want that because I just feel the ones that we already have are fine as they are. But I mean, if they want to make a comic, right, that continues after the events of the films or like a cartoon or something, I wouldn't be against it. Like you can look at George Lucas, for example. He was so dead set on, there being six Star Wars movies, which I really would have preferred if it stayed that way. But he always was like, was okay with, other new material like new games, the comics that continued after the films or were set before the films. Clone Wars. Like even when you have a position of we shouldn't make any more of this type of thing, you still have the creator or people associated that are fine with more stuff being made. Just like I remember I saw this one person who said they want the Dragon Ball Super manga to end. I'm like, well, uh, I'm kind of leaning in that same direction, but that's not because I'm against there being new Dragon Ball stuff. I just don't think the new stuff we've received over the last several years has really been good at all. So my opposition is more based on I don't believe the qualities of the stories that have come out since 2013 have been of a consistent decency, which makes me not want to see anymore or to and like I said, I just don't read the manga anymore. It stopped. I just go and like read a plot summary and like, oh, okay, same old stuff, Goku and Vegeta, yeah, blah 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 blah. Like I don't if I'm truly like disinterested in something that somebody's making, I wouldn't even bother to see it or watch it. Like I wasn't interested in Eternals, so I didn't go to see it. I'm not going to say you shouldn't make a movie about this and this will fail and it won't go anywhere and all the rest, all that little oppositions. I just won't see it because I'm not interested. Akatsuki Merchant, I'm discussing how people are opposed to stuff that they barely know about. So like it's one thing to not like a movie or a TV show that you watched and like I guess hypothetically gave a chance to, but it's another thing to be opposed to something that hasn't even been made because of like one little detail about it. Like if I said, "Hey, let's make I don't know, The Last Airbender season 4," right? Let's say I said this before the comics came out and people go, "The show ended perfectly. You don't need any more content about it. This is a great ending." And then I say, "Well, wait a second. You don't even know what the season will be about. All you know is it's a continuation of the show. You literally know nothing else about what we intend to do with this continuation, but you're opposed to it." Again, it'd be different if they have like plot details, like they've seen multiple episodes. They know they've seen nothing. They just know you want more and they're against it. which is why when we discussed like not liking these people and their position, it's because we can give multiple examples of how if they wanted to keep the show going, here's stuff they could have used. You know, that's why I said before the comics came out, because the comics did address some of the unanswered questions from the show. But like I said, it's why do you have to read a comic to figure out something that was in it? Whatever. Just I don't understand. I just always feel like comics should be supplementary material that like the hardcore fans read just for like added content. You know what I mean? Like when you have big gaping questions like what happened to this character's mother that's been, like unanswered the whole series. I feel like it's really insane to have to read a comic to figure out what happened. Like, why can't you just watch the show? And that's one of the reasons I wish they had done a season 4, because their original intention was to do a TV movie that answered the question, which I would have preferred over it, because most people don't even read comics. It'd be different if they had good arguments for their opposition, but they don't. Well, Kotsky Merchant, they don't have good arguments because they have no good reason to be opposed to something that they know nothing about. Like, for example, Kotsky Merchant, I'll say, I want Raimi's Spider-Man 4. And then someone says, oh no, that Peter's journey is over. Toby's trilogy is complete. It's like, you don't even know what you're opposed to. You don't know what the story is. You don't know what characters are going to be in it besides one. You have no idea how good this film could be because you haven't read a script, you haven't seen a trailer, you haven't even watched the thing because it doesn't even exist. All you know is very, very little about what I want out of it, and you're against it being made. See what I mean about people are always just opposed to something, even when they know nothing about what actually they're opposed to. Like if I said, "Hey, I want a Naruto spinoff about I don't know Obito," just an example, which I'm not I don't really care that much about. Whatever, just an example. You just want to go. We already know about him. We don't need to know more. It's like, well, I mean, if you guys want me to give you examples of time periods of his life that they could do it about, that's cool. But don't sit there and act like they couldn't do it if they didn't want to. There's a lot of characters in Naruto that they could do like a whole series about, and I'd be totally fine. Like, I know, for example, that there's like 12 years of stuff with Kakashi that we didn't get to see. So if I'm just saying, it just seems like people are always against stuff, and they know nothing about what they're like. They're just opposed to things to be opposed to things. The reason the season didn't end with Aang defeating Ozai and ended with Zuko interrogating Ozai on the whereabouts of his mother, it makes sense to want a fourth season. But remember, we're talking about right after the show ended, like 2008, right? Before any of the comics came out, The Promise, all the rest of that stuff. You have unanswered questions such as what happened to Zuko's mother, right? You have how did like what made, because the last time we see Ty Lee, right? She is in the Boiling Rock, and then suddenly she's now a Kyoshi warrior. They could do the whole episode with flashbacks to how that happened. We never find out like what Toph's parents like think, because we haven't seen them since she joined the group. Because after season 2, they basically just stopped being a plot element in the background. They could have made. I'm not even joking. Also, by the way, the Fire Nation, right? We don't know how they immediately react to not being at war anymore. You're gonna have some people who would affect. They had plenty of material if they wanted to make a fourth season, even a fifth. You know, and I just gave you examples of what they could have used. What was the initial process of rebuilding the air temples? But this is what I was talking about when I said when people are opposed to stuff and you can give concrete examples of various things that a writer who wants to continue can use, they're full of crap. Like they can't do it. They just, Nickelodeon just didn't want to. I already explained what Nickelodeon did to them. How they were like, oh, the third season's your last one, and after it got good ratings, they gave it 12 more episodes, and they were like, we just ended the show. That's how we got stuck with Korra. Man, network executive. That's why as much as I would prefer to my show to get more views. I'll always prefer it just being online because I would hate the idea of having to not make something anymore because it didn't get enough ratings or the studio only wants it to have 2 seasons or some other, self-defeating garbage. I've seen a lot of series like that where they have like a few, it's like 1 or 2 seasons, and it gets canceled, and then for the next 20 or 30 years, the person behind it just keeps all the ideas to themselves. The same thing happened to Earth's Mightiest Heroes, where the guy who made that Avengers cartoon, he had to retool the second season, and then like he just now, this show's been over for like 10 years. He just now posted what he wanted to do for a third season, and it sounded really cool. And it makes me dislike Disney even more. But I think it makes sense to want more of anything you like. And my thing is, if you just say, like, if I said, okay, I want a sequel to this movie, and in this movie, this happens, that happens, and if you hear that idea and you're like, I don't really like that, okay, whatever. Like, I didn't like what I heard about TASM 3, the original version of it where they have him resurrecting people that died. I thought that was weird. But that doesn't mean you can't write a TASM 3 that doesn't have that garbage. That's why I said I'm not opposed to the idea of this movie, because this movie can be all kind of different things. Whereas these people are, if they just hear that you want this, they're against it. I'm still laughing at the guy that said the Darth Nihilus movie wouldn't work. I'm like, dude, how did they make him work for the whole KOTOR 2 game? Like, I was that pixie dust? Man, this is just the era of opposition. People are just opposed to stuff to be opposed to stuff. It's really sad. They're always against something. They don't even have to know what they're against to be against it. They don't have to see any scripts. All they need to know is this thing is about this or has this in it, and they're against it. Like, I remember I was on Twitter and I saw they were saying, "Oh, Goblin might come back in the new MCU trilogy, the second trilogy." It's like, no, we need new villains. I'm like, I mean, what? Why? What? How does bringing back this one villain for a third time, especially when superhero movies a lot of times have two villains in them or three, which is the case in No Way Home. How does bringing back this one villain again prevent there from being new villains? Because you don't know if he's going to come back in the fourth one, the fifth one, the sixth one. Like, that's multiple movies there possibly that have nothing but new villains. So I said people are just opposed to stuff to be opposed to stuff. I remember I saw in the comment section on this one channel somebody that was mad that they were bringing Doc Ock back. I was like, what the hell? He was like, I would rather a new villain. It's like, dude, we've had new villains in every single movie since the series started. Like, No Way Home is literally the first time they've used the same villain more than once. Like, out of, what is that, 7, 8 movies? Like, what are you talking about? It just sucks that people are always against something. I like the idea of a bunch of nation citizens who were fiercely loyal to Ozai trying to start some civil war because we don't know that Ozai isn't blood related, because we know that Ozai isn't blood related to Zuko. I mean, my thing is, I'm just floating ideas because I'm just showing that there's a lot of stuff in that series when it ends that you can go, oh, they didn't answer this. This wasn't answered. What happened to this? What happened to that? So, like the Fire Nation stuff, it's you get where it seems really unrealistic that he's going to say the war is over, and every single person in the Fire Nation is just going to be like, okay, whatever. 100-year war just over like that. No dissent, no traitors. I don't buy it. And that could have been the basis for a fourth season. You could have had a civil war in the Fire Nation, along with the like rebuilding the air temples thing. Like, that's why I said it sucks that people are always against stuff, because I'm not even a writer and I can think of creative things they could have done if they wanted to continue, which evidently they did, considering the comics that we got and the sequel series. This is the only series I've ever seen where it's like, oh, here's this character as a kid, and then oh, the sequel has them as an elderly person, and in some instances deceased. Like I still can't get over the fact that Azula doesn't get mentioned at all in Korra. Like you would think she didn't even exist. The almost Fire Lord just like nothing. You know, it's weird. We have no idea what happened to her after. I know the comics explain that like she tried to get Zuko to do what she wanted, and yeah, I know, like, but I'm talking about in that like 68, 65 time year period between after the original series ends when Korra starts. Like we have no idea what happened to her. Yeah, exactly. The fact that Zuko isn't Ozai's son could be the reason for dissenting because they view his succession of the throne as a up. You know what? Even then, it's like they could just say, "Hey, look, we've always lived under this one way, and you're trying to stop that, so we're dissenting." It doesn't even have to be like the non-blood thing. But what I'm just conveying to you is that I remember what I did with my streams. I had a guy who said, "Oh, the series ended on a high note." I'm like, well, no one is contesting that, but there were multiple things that a fourth season could have answered and addressed. Like, just because we want more doesn't mean we thought the current ending sucks. Like, I could say that I want more Transformers animated. That show actually has probably one of the better endings of any of the newer cartoons from that franchise, in my opinion. But that still doesn't change the fact there are multiple plot threads that don't get addressed. You know, by the end of it, like, oh, we brought in Megatron, okay, but there's all these other Decepticons still on the loose around the universe, which a fourth season, which they wanted to do but got canceled, could have addressed. They want to do 2 more seasons of that show. That would have been great. I'm just saying that like you can like the way something ended and still want more of it. Like you have Futurama's ending is acclaimed by a lot of people. And now that that show is coming back, you have a bunch of people who still want to see more. Like the original, that ending doesn't get erased. Just like I remember, there's a Simpsons episode that came out about 11 years ago. I'm trying to remember. I think it was like the season 20 or 22 or 23 or 20. It's like 22, 23, 24, like the season finale for one of those season premiere. I just know the episode is like the future, and it's got all the kids grown up and Homer's old or whatever, and it was designed to be a possible series finale. And even though they made more after that, you could still see it as that. You can still watch the episode and just not watch anymore. Like there are a lot of people who say the Cell Saga of Z is a good series finale for the manga. It's like, yeah, if you don't want to engage with any more of the stuff that came after it, you can just see that and turn it off. That's what people did with GT for years. They were like, "Oh, we'll pretend this is non-canon. This didn't happen." No, we are in the anti-everything era. If you just say you want something to exist, like you don't even like again, no script, no trailer, just this little tiny sentence long nugget of information, people will be opposed to it. Because that's all they know how to do, just be opposed to something. Just opposition for the sake of opposition. It's really sad. Oh, by the way, Akatsuki Merchant, because I wanted to ask you this because I wanted to see how if you understood how stupid this is. If a if you have a website where characters who only appear in one movie get like separate pages about them, wouldn't you say that a character who appears in three has a higher chance of getting one made about them? Like if you can prove that ones that only appear in one movie get pages, um, but the one like how do I explain it? Okay, so on WikiPiss, they were trying to say that Aunt May from the Raimi movies is not notable enough to have her own page. I'm just like, you guys made a page for Goblin when he was only in one movie and it had cameos in two. And they have a page for, Joker from Dark Knight, Catwoman from Batman Returns. Like, you guys make pages for people that are in one film all the time. So someone that's in three, supposedly is not whatever. I just that site is just a complete dumpster fire. Um, yeah, with Sokka, we don't really know much about him. We know that he apparently was involved with stopping Korra from getting kidnapped when she was a kid. I still think it was stupid to kill him off before the series started. Um, we saw him during the little Amon flashbacks, but we really know almost nothing. We don't know if he had any kids, as far as I remember. We don't know who his wife was. Just really limited information. And this is one of the main characters of the damn series before this. It's so weird. He really is like out of the like. He's the only one it made no sense to kill, because when the show came out, they were like, Katara is the only person still living from Aang's time, and then you find out that Toph and Zuko are alive as well. So he's the only major one of that group from the first series that's not, that doesn't have to be dead like Aang, for the Avatar state to keep, recycling. He's the only one they just killed off just for fun. They're just like, yeah, whatever, we'll have you dead too. Watch somebody say it wouldn't be realistic for all of them to live into their 80s. It's like you want realism out of a series where people can control elements with their hand. Oh my god. Realism. I'm so tired of hearing about how something's not realistic. It's like, guys, none of this, hate to break it to you, but most people don't even like realistic fiction. That's why the main things that are like selling very well aren't realistic. Like, what are the two highest grossing movies of all time? A movie with a bunch of blue people that would never exist in real life, which is not realistic, and a movie about a bunch of people with powers, which is not realistic, trying to undo the damage by a purple space monster. Like, I no, people don't care about stuff that's realistic. I think I would say they like good writing, right? Like, oh, this character is interesting, or well written. But realism is not something that people have a problem with. It's been proven by how successful stuff that's not realistic is able to do. But no, they had no reason to get rid of Sokka. They just did it to be edgy. Oh, look, we're gonna kill off one of the main characters from the first show, and we're gonna barely mention him. How cool! It's just a really weird position. I believe this character is not notable enough to have their own page. The thing is, I could probably because I know how that site works. You have to get reception. What do people think of this character? You have to get background information, right? Personality. All I could find all that stuff for her, but I just don't feel like putting up with the headache of, oh, we know you have all these sources. We know we have all these different people who give back, because that's the same thing happened with the Doc Ock one, where they were like, oh, this character is not notable. He's only in 2 movies, even though we have pages for characters that are only in 1 movie. I'm so sick of them. That site is just hypocrisy personified. My personal headcanon is that Sokka was killed by that combustion bending lady, and she's the daughter of the original combustion bender that Sokka killed. Well, like I said, how sad is that you can't even get them to explain what happened to one of the most important characters in the first show? That's really pathetic that you even have to do that. That they can't just in this series reveal what happened to him. How, like, when did he die? How did he die? Nothing. I think it would probably be the granddaughter of, because if we're scaling time properly, that guy was like 20, 30 something in the original show, and this chick is maybe like, unless she's old, like 80 something. I don't think because she'd have to be alive when he was alive, and I think it would at best be his granddaughter or great granddaughter. I don't think it would be his daughter with like an 80-year gap between, nah, 70, 60, nah. She gotta be a real old lady to be his daughter. Oh. You don't think it's funny that like, oh, we can see the same hero in 6 movies, but you want them to use a villain twice? Ugh. I think that's really sad that people that like you they like they're so like you can see the hypocrisy with these people like this whole thing about limited appearances is only for one group. Because I remember with the X-Men movies, they were very adamant about always bringing back Magneto. Yeah, you're right. She was still pretty young when we saw her again in that deep frozen cellar. But Akatsuki Merchant, have you noticed the hypocrisy? Um, oh, we can't see a villain more than once or twice, but we can see the hero in like 8 or 9 movies. You don't get the hypocrisy of that? Like why does the villain always have to only show up like 2 times or never again? Which hell, the MCU doesn't even usually do that. You only show up once and get killed off usually. But if they're the hero, they can appear over and over and over and over and over, even in stuff that you could have written completely without them. You know that's weird. Like I was talking about one this to make this one movie, and this person was like, "This character's time is over. We need to have new characters." I'm like, "You're the same prick that likes a movie series where they have the same villain for 11 films, like 11 times, right? But if I want to use the same protagonist 4 times, it's too much. Make it out of here." So I said, I'm just all people do is just they just find ways to be opposed to stuff. But have you noticed that like they're really hypocritical when it comes to who's allowed to be used over and over again and who isn't? Like you guys want to see all 3 Spider-Men in 8 movies or 7 or 10 or whatever, but if we use a villain more than once or twice, that's where you finally draw the line, really. That's why I said there's a part of me that always wishes that the MCU when it started um integrated the other film series like cuz it would have been so cool like having a universe where you've got the Defoe as Goblin, right? uh, either he faked his death in the first movie, he gets brought back in the same way they did now with the multiverse stuff, and then you see him. Iron Man shows up, he steals the armor, becomes Iron Patriot, Dark Avengers after the original ones go. Like that could have been a really interesting thing that we will never get. We probably will never get to see, unfortunately. But there's always that part of me that wishes that the Raimi films were part of the MCU. Like I think they would have been better off in terms of some of the stuff they could do if that were the case. Which was the original intention because I mentioned before that in Iron Man it was supposed to be revealed that Tony was the one that made Doc Ock's tentacles. Ugh. I think it's more of an ego thing. If they want something, it's valid, and we're supposed to affirm them. But when you want something, they'll find some way to invalidate it. Yeah, and remember, some of the arguments they make are just complete garbage. Like, I'm tired of nostalgic characters in a series that is about the same people that it's been about since it started 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. Like, and then remember when they every time they do a new movie and they even if they bring back like 2 people, 3 people, everybody else completely new. You've never seen them before, but somehow if they bring back like a few people, that stops new people from having a chance. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's weird. No, these are not well thought out arguments. Because when I was talking about, like, let's say having Melina play Doc Ock again, it could be in a Sinister Six movie. It could be in a movie where there's only one other villain, where it's two. Because that's what I thought No Way Home was going to be at first. Because him and Electro were the first ones announced for this. So they could have easily just do another film with him. If you don't want to be a villain, he could be a supporting character for because the Cure or whatever. But I'm just saying, like it just seems as if every time you want something, people find a way to invalidate it. They always can just be opposed to stuff that they know nothing about. You just spit out an idea, like a little tiny sentence blurb, and they're against it. You want Spider-Man 4? No. Why? Because the story has already been told. Ah, yes, I am tired of nostalgic character movie characters who are literal pop culture icons. Dude, imagine saying you're tired of nostalgia characters in a series that has been using the same villain for 40 years and 11 movies. Imagine saying you're tired of nostalgia characters in a film where literally every single named character has been around since at least the 80s. Like there's not a single character that is in No Way Home that hasn't, again, except for MJ because that's someone they made up, but not a single one that has been around since at least the 80s. And I'm just gonna put it to you like this: nostalgia is the only like there's a reason why this stuff is still around because the newer stuff is not as original, it's not as interesting, and it sucks. And this is something we've talked about before. People think that just because you make something new, it's good. It's not. Why do you think so many people hate The Last Jedi? Because they think Rey is boring, especially in comparison with Luke. When they tried to replace in the 90s Peter with Ben Riley, it failed. They've tried to replace Peter with Miles. It usually doesn't work unless it's some other content or whatever. For the most part, it's not. It doesn't catch on as much. They tried to replace Bruce Wayne with Azrael, and then Dick Grayson. It didn't work. Like just because you make a new character or try to change something doesn't mean it's good or it'll be as liked as what came before. They tried to replace Goku with Gohan as the person that beats the villain every arc. Didn't work. I think it could have worked with Toriyama or Kofi, but that's besides the point. Nostalgic characters. All these damn series have characters who have been around since it started 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. It's so goofy. That's why I said these fans are like they write stuff doesn't make any sense. I'm tired of nostalgic characters in my series that literally is only being made because people have fondness for the older films. I want them to stop using nostalgic characters in my nostalgia series. Literally everything that's been around for more than like 10 or 20 years you can say is nostalgia series. Like the last Airbender comics are nostalgia comics because they're being made to capitalize off the success of the older cartoon, even though they only came out a few years later. This is why I think a good V. A good chunk of the MCU fan base is dumb. It's not even just them. Like you can find people like this in every community. That's why I gave the Dragon Ball example. It's like, oh yes, stop using nostalgic characters like Piccolo and Gohan and Krillin, but keep having it be about the same two characters who have been around since the 80s. Yeah, that's totally not using that's totally moving on and doing new things by using the same two characters that have been around for 30 years. Yeah. How inventive, how different. Imagine how crazy I would look if I said, well, Superman's been dating Lois Lane since the 30s, the 40s, but she's a nostalgic character. Now have Superman date some new woman that I'm gonna make. Like if she's a nostalgia character, so is he. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Nostalgia character. We can't have Goku spend time with his wife. She's a nostalgia character, even though Goku himself has been around longer than her. But you know, he gets a pass, I guess. I have seen people who are like openly hypocritical. Like when I would say, "Oh, I would like for them to bring Cell back as the villain," this person's like, "No, Frieza gets to come back because he's the most important, iconic villain." I'm like, yeah, anybody would be the most important, iconic if they're the only one that you get to see more than once before they get killed off forever. What I mean? That's like iconic by default. Nostalgic characters. Oh, Peter's been dating Mary Jane since the '60s, but she's a nostalgia character. He needs a new love interest, which they actually have done, and it's failed in every instance. The only character you can pair him with, and it might work, as far as like getting people to support it and being like, "All right, I'm on board with," is Black Cat. Everybody else, they paired him with that Carly chick under Dan Snott's run, failed. Just like that's why I said just because you make a new character doesn't mean it's going to be as well received or as well liked as the one that came before. Why do you think there's been almost no new villains made for any of these characters in the past like 10, 20, 30 years? Because the new ones suck. Actually, what it is that a lot of the classic Batman villains, for example, were made to be reflections of some part of himself, and the newer ones they don't really seem to capitalize on that same theme. They tried pairing him. Well, no, Gwen's different because Gwen was someone that was made under his original writer. It's not the same as okay, after she dies and he's with Mary Jane for the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and then early 2000s. Let's retcon the marriage out of existence and then bring in this new chick that we made who we're hoping will be as popular or at least a quarter of as popular as Mary Jane. That's not the same. I'm referring to an example of having a romantic pairing in a comic that goes on for literal decades, and then it is superseded or preceded by a new pairing that is nowhere near as well liked as the one that came before. Gwen came before Mary Jane, so that doesn't count. That's why I specifically didn't mention her. Hell, the main reason she was killed off is because Mary Jane was way more popular and had a better personality. That's why I gave the Superman example. When you have a character who is like synonymous with someone for a long time, and then you try to like put another person there, it doesn't work. Like you can't just imagine how real life. I know people are. I'm just going to give you an example. Akatsuki Merchant. Let's say that every Friday for like 10 years or 15 years, you go to get dinner with your dad. You and him go to a restaurant, just eat together. You and your dad, and then all of a sudden, after 15 years, like, all right, look, we're tired of seeing this. This is boring. It's the same thing over and over. Um, you need to go and eat dinner with your mailman. You're like, what the hell? Like, sure, it's the same act of going to eat dinner on Friday, but it doesn't work as well as it did with your dad because that person had a specific pre-established very important relationship with you that made the dinners as endearing as they are. A lot of people do think of characters like that, like they can just switch any old character out. That's one of the reasons why the original Transformers movie, the one from the '80s, did as bad as it did, because they thought they could just kill Optimus Prime and it's just another toy, and we can switch him out with Rodimus, and nobody will tell the difference, and they got backlash for it, which they deserved. But it goes back to this thing of how a lot of writers just see characters as like just expendable, even in their own story, just this like irrelevant thing that we use for a little bit, then we throw away and we toss them out and we replace them with somebody and no one can tell the difference. And then when people get pissed at them for doing this, they act like they're under siege. Like, oh my God, I can't believe you people have an attachment to this thing that I couldn't care less about. Wow, who would have guessed? By the way, somebody made a video yesterday cursing up a storm, and it's funny because he's like, "Who I paid for to have on my channel is none of your effing business," and then he proceeds to tell us who he paid for. Like, it's like I thought it was none of our business. Why are you telling us who was free and who wasn't? That video was very awful. I was considering downloading it because of how like I there's a part of me that thinks he probably will take it down if he realizes how insane he sounds on it. And then you got people in the comment section, we understand you, man. I don't feel sorry for him at all because he's another one of these like anti everything people when you don't even know what the plot of something is and then you're opposed to it. So also I saw what happened to him. He went on somebody else's channel and wrote crazy stuff and then people wrote back to him. So it's funny because in his video he frames it as I'm just this content creator and people are attacking me. Like, no, you go to I'll give you an example. Like imagine, for example, if I didn't want TASM 3, right? And somebody makes a video, we should make TASM 3. TASM 3 should be about this. And in the comment section, I go, no, I don't want this. And then people say, oh, look, it's the person that hates Andrew Garfield and Mark Webb or something, right? And I'm like, oh, it's the people who support the series where they did too much about Peter's parents. It's like I started this. I came to a video for people who want this and was like, do not do this, this is stupid, whatever, like blatantly was in opposition to this video. And then I went back and forth with the people who responded to me. If I never went in the lion's den and antagonized them on a video about something they want, they probably wouldn't have antagonized me back. You see what I mean? Like that's why I don't feel sorry for that guy. I saw what he did. You piss people off and then they're supposed to feel bad for you. It doesn't work that way. It's just funny because he makes it sound like he was just on his own channel and all of a sudden people started attacking him. It's like, no, we know what happened. We know you came over there and were writing antagonistic garbage and then you got called out for it and it was too hot. It's like, nice try, buddy. Because a lot of these anti-everything people get really mad when they get attacked back, and you saw that on Saturday with that chick. She came to my stream talking about you're hating on women. Nobody's even talking about chicks. We're talking about one stupid person and what they did in their dumb server. And then after we start saying how ridiculous she is, she the last thing she asked me, and I deleted it, is why are you so mean? It's like, you can't come to someone's stream, accuse them of something they're not doing, and then expect them to like treat you nice. Like, what is wrong with you? Hey, Akatsuki Merchant, when you make a video, here's why I want a Scarlet Witch solo movie, and then I go in the comment section and go, no. And then someone says, oh, look, you're the person that hates Elizabeth Olsen. And I go, oh, you're the person who likes the actress that thinks the MCU revolves around her. It's like, damn, like but I can't, I'm the one who started this conflict because I came to a video that is specifically designed for people who want something that I don't want, said I didn't want it. And then, I got criticized for saying that. Like, yeah, if I didn't go there, that wouldn't have happened. I'll tell you, man, people don't even like they always want to portray themselves as being the victims in these scenarios. And it's really laughable. They can be opposed to whatever you want, but if you respond back to them, then they need a safe space. So I said the opposition crowd is just such a joke. They're always the first ones to like adamantly be against something, and then if you explain why what they're saying is ridiculous, they go and say they're under attack because they try to do the victim thing. Imagine if people did this in real life. What he did is the equivalent of me going into a bar and saying, as people are like sipping their alcohol, right? I think this substance should be prohibited. I'm probably going to get cursed out. I'm probably going to be. I'm. It might even get more extreme. Have people attack me because like why are you at a place that sells alcohol if you think it shouldn't even be something that's sold? Period. Like, what purpose is there to that? Yeah, you only see this behavior online. Like, if I make a fan club, it's like, hey, let's make this movie. You don't have anyone that shows up to that meeting that doesn't want to actually make it. They don't like these people don't do this stuff in real life. They don't go and join campaigns for different things to get made and then be like, "Oh, I don't want this to get made." Or come to their site or whatever domain they have. But like I said, what he did was so weird because like you keep claiming you don't want this, but then you're watching videos about making it. Like that's weird. And see, that's always the part that gets me because like if somebody says, "Oh, I want what's something I don't want?" Here's what a new Back to the Future movie could be. I'm not interested in looking at it because I'm not really interested in seeing another one of those made. You're not going to see me in the comment section. No. And then when people who want it respond back to me, come on my channel, I just left a comment. People started attacking me. It's weird too, because in his video, I swear, man, I read the whole comment section. No, he in his video, he's like, I have a disability and I never use it to my advantage. Nobody in the comment section said he did. I looked at every comment. Nobody said this guy had a disability or that he was like. That's what I'm saying about how like if you want to make yourself appear sympathetic, all you have to do is have a little bit of truth. Because it is true that he made a comment and people responded back to him with criticism, but their criticism wasn't even that bad. Like I'd rather be called the guy who does X, Y, and Z than you piece of garbage, or like name calling. No one did that to him. But you need a little bit of truth, and then you have to put stuff in there that did not happen that makes you look more sympathetic. Oh, they're attacking me for my disability. So that's just all they do is find a way to make themselves look like these poor little victims for stuff that they caused. He did it to himself. Nobody made him comments on that video. It's not like they came to his channel. Well, he doesn't want it, so no one else should want it. So he'll get mad and write passive aggressive comments to anyone who doesn't agree with him. Yeah. If I don't want something, nobody else should want it. That's how it is for me. But see, that's the other problem that I have with this because they always frame themselves as like these little innocent people that come online and they get attacked because they have a different opinion. It's like, no, you come to videos that are about wanting something and you antagonize either the people that want that or the idea of people wanting it, right? And then when they respond back to you, you play victim. You act like you're under siege. That's why I gave the example. Imagine if someone made a video saying, "Oh, I don't know, Matrix 5." I'm like, sincerely, what's the point? It's like, well, look, douchebag. The point is this person liked the last one, he wants another one. And if you really are opposed to having another one made, you wouldn't be watching videos by people on what they want from a fifth one. So I said, man, people just yeah, if I don't like something, you have to also not like it or not want it. So tired of these damn people. They think the whole world revolves around them. It's funny too because like what they do is like how to explain it. What they do is the opposite of believing that, like going to other people's channels to write their little goofy comments, but then they also like show that they want those things because they wouldn't be there watching that stuff if they weren't interested in this topic. I don't feel bad for that guy. I think he got what he deserved. Because the stuff that was written to him was not that bad, and it wouldn't have been written to him if he didn't go to somebody else's channel. And like, I always felt like these people like arguing with others because for me, I don't write comments back to people in comment sections, even if someone writes something nice, just hearted. But like I have settings purposely done to where I don't even get notified if people respond back to my comments on the video. So he goes to videos, writes antagonistic stuff, and then when people respond back to him, he wants to argue because but then also claims that like, oh, I'm being so harassed and attacked and all this other stuff, even though he's not. And if he didn't want to supposedly be harassed and attacked, he just wouldn't write these antagonistic comments on videos by people who want something different from him. I'm just laughing because the stuff that was written to him was so tame. Like this is really is the snowflake era. God, like I was just looking at the comments a few minutes ago. I was like, that's real. This is really the full extent of the stuff that was so bothersome to him that he made a almost 15-minute video about it. All right. Like I said, he did it to himself. I mean, he's another one of these people that I don't it's hard for me to feel anything for. Just from a standpoint of like, oh, I'm sorry that this happened to you. I don't feel bad at all for them because they go and they're nasty toward other people, and then when people respond to them accordingly, they can't handle it. Like mail me a box of tissues. If I don't want something, you shouldn't want it either. And if you do want it, I'm gonna go to your video and explain why you shouldn't want it. That's always the part that gets me. Like they choose to make themselves known on these videos. Like when I see people like this, they're always in somebody else's comment section. Like no one is going to their channel and saying stuff to them, and then when they come on these channels that have a different opinion from them and get responded to in a way that is not entirely cordial or agreeing with them, they play victim. Like I read those comments twice. So many snowflakes on the internet. What's worse that these people will project their victim complex onto you by accusing you of being sensitive. We don't remember how like you have people who come in my comment section and they'll write all this nasty stuff, and then if I do a stream or a video where I screenshot what they wrote, it's like they're offended by it, and I was just saying this. Like, no, you were being nasty and antagonistic. Remember, we've had this discussion before that people online want to say whatever they want to you, but they also want to control how you respond to it. So he can come to the video that this person made and say, "No, what you want should not happen." But then we can't respond and say, "Hey, look, you have some bias against this lady. Every time she gets brought up, you're opposed to her being involved with this damn series. We don't know what's wrong with you." Which again wouldn't even happen if he would have just never said anything on the video. You're the one playing victim after you came in here writing snide comments, people who you probably wouldn't hold the same energy with if it were a face-to-face situation. We talked about that before. Everybody online always acts like they're so powerful and strong. It's like you remember I had some guy on one of the streams talking about if he saw me in real life, he would beat me up. Or so it's like, what's wrong with you? Like you disagree with me about the romance garbage. So if you fight me and defeat me, that's going to do what to My arguments, are my arguments going to be obliterated as well? Like as you're assaulting me, are you going to be saying these like thought provoking, profound claims against my points? Like what? You see what I mean? I said like people just don't even make any sense. Like what are you talking about? No, they never have that energy. They're just always opposed to something. I'm against this. I'm against that. It's so weird. There's a lot of MCU stuff that I wish got made. Like I'm not even the biggest MCU fan. I'm like, yeah, I would like Iron Man 4. I would like a lot of it is like just stuff that happened in between Infinity War and that 5 year time skip in Endgame. Because there's a whole bunch of character development that we don't even get to see. Like with Hulk, he could barely control Hulk, and then suddenly he's able to control it, and we don't know what happened, who he fought. Like we still never found out if he fought Leader, who is like his arch nemesis or one of his more important villains. Like that's why I say it just really sucks that people are always so opposed to stuff because there's a lot of valid reasons to want more from something you like, especially if you feel like the thing you enjoy didn't answer every question it could have. You're the one playing victim. That's why I said a lot of times it just feels like when you try to have a conversation with people and they're always opposed to stuff, things that they know almost nothing about because we haven't seen a script, we don't see no trailer, we know almost next to nothing about this potential idea this person has. That makes me not even want to engage with people because what's the point of trying to have a dialogue where you gauge somebody's opinion on what you want to create or what you want to do, and they're opposed to it when they barely know anything about it. I'm tired of that. Like, act normal. I did this stream called "We Will Never Get Anywhere," and that's what happens when you listen to these people. Like when you know that people can be so opposed to something of which they know frighteningly little. That's all you need to know about whether you should take them seriously and listen to them. Because every time they have a chance to improve something or to say something that makes sense, they don't. So I'm just tired of people acting like this. And they come to your channel and play victim. They pick fights by writing this antagonistic trash, but then they want to act as if you did something to them by responding back. No, if I did a TASM 3 video, which I won't do, but if you do a video where you say, "Hey, I would like this," you'll always have someone that's against it. And then when people respond to that person and explain why what he's saying doesn't make sense to them, now they're under attack. The same energy with it if it were a face to face situation. No, people online are the biggest like tough guys I've ever seen. But then when you actually are in front of them, they're all nice and docile and timid. And again, I don't even do that on here. I don't try to sound powerful or as if I'm gonna fight everybody because I just think it's stupid. We already explained before that usually if I'm nasty towards someone, it's someone that was nasty toward me. Like you get what you gave. But we're just at a point where pretty much everybody is gross just because. Like that's why I said I don't really see much purpose. Like when I was talking about the chick stuff, I would always say I don't see much purpose in speaking to them, but that's because a lot of them get so angry over nothing. You know, you look at the broad that I was talking to for 3 months, and then she asked me some personal stuff that's none of her business, and then won't say anything back to me for all. And it's like this is stupid. So I just prefer to not speak to them in any kind of capacity if I'm telling the truth. But that's really because you don't who wants to talk to someone where every time they speak to them, there's a chance for an argument. Like I have people I talk to and you can tell them, "Hey, I want to do this," and they're supportive. You don't hear this like blind opposition to just everything. Like Jesus Christ. Like they'll argue with you about stuff that isn't even worth arguing about. Oh, you want a sequel to this movie? If something's popular enough, you'll always be able to find people that just oppose making more of it or even making it in the first place. I don't think this could work. I don't know how this would work. I don't believe they should do this. It's funny how like I'll get accused of being negative over the chick stuff, but then when people are actively like crapping on what I want to do or some idea I have what should be done when it comes to like a story, whether it's a movie or a show, the people who tell me that this couldn't work with it when they know almost nothing about it are not considered negative. It's funny how that works. So if we're against something, we're negative, but if they're against something, it's all right. No, nobody classifies them as being, needlessly antagonistic to stuff. It's really interesting. Man, people just always. What's another example of that where there was something where someone was just opposed to it? I don't know. It's because in real life, I don't really And again, maybe it's because in real life people don't act like this. But when I was like thinking about doing my show, I don't remember there being anyone who said you shouldn't make this or I don't think this will work or whatever. Maybe there's like a plot detail that someone might not have thought was the coolest thing ever. But I don't remember, like having a person who just was always against stuff and always against making things. I don't recall these types of people in real life. Don't make this movie, don't make this show, don't make X, Y, and Z. Don't make. Like, shut up. It's annoying. You're the oh, okay. I already read that comment. That is a really interesting contrast when you think about it. Like you'll be called negative over the woman stuff and like believing that's going, which it is, it's going nowhere. But then people are not called negative when they're opposed to making things that they know almost nothing about what actually is in it. Like they don't know what the plot is. They only know maybe one person that's going to be in it. Nobody says they're negative. No one says that you know, they must be fun at parties or stupid stuff like that. It's just I think that's really interesting. I'm only negative about stuff that I've seen not work over and over again. Like I've seen the chick thing just stay the same year after year, which is why I believe in it going nowhere. But like people make movies all the time. They write a script, they get the cast, they do the principal photography, and then after that's finished, the editing, it's just a trailer, all that stuff. That's been done repeatedly. So I'm a lot more optimistic about those than any of this woman crap. I still want to do the video on paying for it. I just have to like write the script because it's always so hard when you make an edited video and you feel like there's stuff you should say but you can't think of it, and then after you finish writing it and editing it, you're like, oh, there's this one thing I could have added. Oops. So I'll probably see if I can do that this week. Oh, good old writer's block rearing its ugly head again. It really is funny how writer's block works. Like, oh, today I wrote 10 pages. Yesterday I wrote 2 pages. It really does just fluctuate. It's just so weird to me how people are just always capable of looking for a way to be against something. I find that very sad because the whole point of having these dialogues and discussing what would work and what doesn't is because you're attempting to get some kind of consensus about storytelling. And if you're opposed to something that you know almost nothing about, um, then you're basically admitting there's no purpose in having a dialogue with you. We should just completely exclude you from the process of making this. Which maybe isn't a bad idea for some people. Like, they can still see it, but like as far as trying to speak to them and having to no, because this is what they do. They're just opposed to stuff just for the fun of it. I'm against this and that's that. Yeah, the opposition group is just always they're always against something. That's why I never can take it seriously when they say, "Oh, this couldn't work," because I know these people, even if it's not the same group of people. But when you know that you can always find someone who's against something, no matter if it's a movie, a show, you know, again, usually the early stages of it, like, hey, here's a premise of what I'd like to see. Then you don't take them seriously because you know that no matter what you want, you're going to have someone who's against it. So it's just a default option for stuff. Just like I remember I saw an article a few days ago. It's like, oh, Batman Beyond could get a season four. I'm like, well, that sounds really cool. And I go on Twitter, they don't need a fourth season. The show ended in a not, didn't have that many plot, whatever. Just always opposed to something. And it's like, well, I mean, I guess Return of the Joker is a good finale, but I just don't. I don't have a problem with them doing more. You got all the voice actors are still around. Why not? All if it's the same group of writers, I don't. Especially when we know that they didn't want to end it there. They wanted to continue, but then they stopped it to go do Justice League. So, it's not I don't really have an issue with someone having a vision that got interrupted and then coming back to finish it. Same thing with Young Justice. I think season 3 of that show is terrible, but I'm not going to be mad at getting more if Wiseman wanted to make more, which he did ever since season 2 was it got canceled after that. I don't have an issue with him being allowed to come back and finish his vision. Like I'm just maybe it's my empathy as a creator, but if someone wants to make something and there's a fan base for it, I don't really see an issue with it continuing. Because I saw plenty of people. Season three was so good. So there's someone who enjoys that. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean it has to end. At least people really think the world revolves around them. Jim, I was discussing with the Kotsky merchant before he went to sleep a few minutes ago. This group of people, I call them anti everything, and what it is that I could say I want a movie or a show, and they'll say, "Oh, this couldn't work. I don't want that." Even if they know almost nothing about the movie or the show, they've seen no trailers. You just say, "Hey, I want this." They're against it. So, for example, let's say I said, "I want a movie about the life of Jim," and the movie will be called 4222. And then someone says, "Oh no, don't make that. Jem's life is boring." Well, you don't know what the movie you know the movie's about Jem, but you don't know what period of his life it covers. You don't know who's going to play him. You've seen no trailer, no script. Yeah, negative Nellies. They're and the point I was trying to make is it's one thing to read a script. Like if I write a script for a movie and you read it or you hear the details and you don't like it, that's one thing. But if all you know about this is that it's about someone and that's enough for you to say, "Oh, this could never work. Don't do this." I think that's ridiculous. People are just haters. They're just always opposed to stuff. Like another good example. Let's say I want to make a show about a politician and it'll cover their whole, I don't know, maybe the time they were senator or congressman, just something, right? And then you have a person who says, "Oh, this will be boring and nobody will watch it." It's like, well, how do you know it'll be boring? You haven't even seen an episode. Is that like we haven't even written any scripts yet? You don't even know who it's about. Yeah, online people are the worst. We were also talking, Jem, about how there's a guy that came to the comment section of this video that's like, "Hey, they should bring back this actress to play this character she hasn't played in a long time." And he's like, "No." And then somebody like mentions that he's mad that she wouldn't do a free interview with him. So he makes a video yesterday crying about how he's being harassed and attacked, and it's none of our business who he pays for on his channel, even though in the same video he mentions how much he paid for in an interview with this one person that was on her. So it was funny because he makes it sound in the video like he's just under siege, but this interaction would not have happened if he didn't come to this other person's video who wanted something he didn't want, express opposition, and then get criticized for being opposed to this person every turn, but still watching videos about bringing them back. You get where that's hypocritical, right? Imagine if you made a video and it's called I don't know, why AOC should run for president in 2 years. And then I go in the comment section, I go, "No, she would never win, and she doesn't know what she's talking about." And you're like, "Okay, if you don't think she could win, if you don't want this to happen, why are you here?" And then I go on my channel, "I just came on there and expressed my opinion, and they attacked me, and I was told that I didn't know what I was saying." It's like, you came to their video, crapped on something they wanted, the lion's den of these people who want this thing to happen. And then when they respond back, you play victim. Like someone was bothering you. You were bothering them. That's why I call them anti everything. They don't even know what they're opposing. Like, oh, you want to do a movie that brings back this one actor? You don't know what the story is. You haven't seen any scripts, no trailers. No. Oh, it is Crybabies. It's Crybabies. It's opposition to be opposite. In his video, I'm not gonna play it because I don't want to give him promotion. Uh, but it's really funny because he's like cursing up a storm. It's he's hypocritical too because in the video he says that if they made a sequel to this movie that he likes that people say is bad, they would watch it. But then we know he said that he's so addicted to the series he would watch any movie. So he would do the exact same thing if they made a sequel to a movie he didn't like in the same series. You know, like you're gonna call them out for doing the same thing you would do. And then him saying that it's none of our business who he pays for an interview with, but then he tells us how much it costs to pay an interview with this one person he interviewed was $80. Like what? So how is it none of our business, but then you're telling us anyway? You get like where it's just that video was so stupid. And then the whole comment section's agreeing with him. Oh, poor guy. It really sucks that these people attack you. It's like you attack them, you come to their video and write antagonistic stuff. And then when people respond, you know, the biggest way you know these people are full of crap when they say that they don't like being, attacked is because they'll come to someone's video of someone that wants something they don't want. Then they write antagonistic snide stuff. They get criticized for it and they have their comments enabled for so if somebody responds to you, you can choose if you want to be notified of it or not. They have it enabled because they always like argue back and respond to these people. This guy has 4,000 subs. He'll argue with somebody that has none or one sub. So I don't sit up in comment sections arguing with people about anything ever. I don't argue about my love life. I don't argue about the news. I don't argue about a movie or a show. I'm good. So it's crybabies, it's hypocrisy. We were talking about that earlier. There's a guy who said that they shouldn't bring back this one character that's been in 3 movies, but then he also is like, I guess, okay with them using the same villain for 11. Like, so if we see her 4 times, it's too much. But if we see the antagonist 12 times, that's all right. Okay, man. The people on these websites, they don't even try to make sense. They're like, whatever. I like this. I don't like this. That kind of stuff. Oh, it's very, very much crybabies. No, the hypocrisy knows no bounds. They just. That's why I said it just seems like having a discussion with people about something you'd like to see is pointless because no matter what the topic is, you have someone who's opposed to what you want. So you might as well not even bother speaking to them. If you can be opposed to things and know almost nothing about what it is, the plot of this thing you don't want is, that's all you need to know about how impossible it is to have a reasonable dialogue with you because you're just against stuff that other people want. So I wouldn't even bother with these guys. I already said before I just make stuff and I ignore all the people in these comment sections because they're doing nothing themselves. They're not creative. They have no imagination and they're just opposition for the sake of opposition. Like they're just a hollow existence, always against something. They're rebels without a cause. That just shows they're a very negative and self-centered person. Oh yeah, they're really self-centered. Like, oh, this person made a video that has an opinion I don't like about a movie or a show they want to see made. Let me write a comment about why that shouldn't happen, and then after people respond to me, I'm going to play victim and act like I'm under attack, even though I would have never been responded to if I hadn't have written my antagonistic comment in the first place. That's all they are. They just are. They're very negative and they're self-centered. If I don't want something, then it shouldn't happen. Which I think is really stupid, and that's why I gave the example from Young Justice. Like, I don't like that show. I think the current season is better than the last one, but I still would say overall, I don't think the show is good after the first season. But again, it's like I see people on Twitter and these other websites saying they like it. So, if they want to make more seasons, go ahead. There's someone out there for it. Just because I don't want something doesn't mean it shouldn't exist or that no one would like it. It's stupid. Anyways, I'm gonna get off of here because we're barely getting anybody in here. I'm just gonna cut it off 30 minutes early and so I can get something to eat. So thanks, Jem. Thanks, Akatsuki Merchant, and I'll stream again. If not well, definitely on Saturday, but I might do it again on Wednesday or Thursday, depending on what happens. So see ya.